Today, every single person has been evacuated from the territory of Azovstal steel factory. This is the second biggest event of the war, right after Ukrainian forces sinking the Russian Navy flagship called Moskva. Ukrainian side says that these people were rescued, but at the same time Russian side says that these people will be from now on the prisoners of war of Russia. Why the evacuation from this factory is so important? What will happen with these people? How will this change the future course of the war? And these are the questions that we'll be talking about in today's video. What's up, investors, Justin Dai and people of Reddit, it's the Russian Dude, and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war as of Friday, May 20th. Happy Friday, everyone! You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. Today, the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergey Shoigu, reported to Vladimir Putin that the Azovstal steel factory had been completely liberated. What he meant is that all the Ukrainian soldiers of Azov battalion have surrendered, and now Russian forces have full control over the city of Mariupol. But in return, Ukrainian side says that these soldiers were evacuated and now they're getting their medical assistance, because they were trapped beneath this factory almost since the beginning of the war. Even the commander of Azov battalion, Denis Prokopenko, also mentioned that there was an order from above to stop the defense and save lives. Which lets me make an assumption that yes, indeed, every single person was rescued from the territory of this factory. It has also been reported that other important members of the Azov battalion also left the territory of the factory, such as for example Sviatoslav Kalina-Polomary and Sergey Volynov-Volynskiy. Once again, Russian side says that these are their prisons and there is no way that they'll be exchanged. Russia says that these people will be prosecuted and they will receive jail times. But at the same time, Ukrainian side says that these are the prisoners of war and they will be exchanged for Russian prisoners of war. Even though this might not sound significant, I personally consider this to be one of the major events of this war. And the reason for this is because now there is no more people on the territory of this factory, which technically means that Russia has full control over the city of Mariupol. Which basically means, I guess, that now Putin will be able to announce to the citizens of Russia that Russia is achieving its goals in Ukraine. And because of this, we hopefully might see the cease of fire in the nearest future. It feels like that Russia at this point is getting desperate, that is why they will not create any additional objectives. They will take whatever they can at this very moment and pronounce it as a total victory. Russia will now obviously try to send its own infiltrators into the city of Mariupol and try to separate the city from Ukraine. And after this, they might even try to do a referendum about joining Russia, which I think will not happen. Especially because now the main goal of Ukraine in this war is to push Russians away from all of its territories and not to give them any land at all. So let's see if Russia will just take this technical victory and leave, or there will be future confrontations. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please make sure to check the link in the description if you wish to receive additional content such as daily Zoom calls and Q&A sessions. All the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine at the end of each month. Thank you so much, and let's continue. Welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Russian Propaganda. And today we're going to talk about these undeniable facts that Russian side has about this American ultra-Nazi Kent McClellan who was fighting for Ukraine. So there is this American ultra-Nazi Kent McClellan, and you can just Google his pictures. And I mean, this is a perfect Nazi candidate for Russian propaganda. Russian side said that they have all the proof that this Nazi was fighting for Ukraine in Mariupol. And the main source of these facts for Russia is the Instagram, which by the way is prohibited in Russia, so I'm not sure how they got these facts. So long story short, their narrative is pretty basic. This Nazi came all the way from America to Ukraine to teach Ukrainians all the aspects of Nazism. And then he obviously joined the Azov battalion, which was defending the Azovstal steel factory. Russian side also says that this guy is so tough that in case Ukrainian side loses the control over the factory, it is most likely that Ukrainians will have to kill him. And the reason why would they need to kill him is so they can hide the evidence of Nazism in Ukraine. So basically, according to Russia, no matter what happens, this is kinda a lose-lose situation for this guy. Today, the Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergey Shoigu, mentioned that the liberation of Lugansk region is almost over. At this very moment, the liberation of this region is one of the main priorities of Russia. And yes, there have been several reports in the past, even from Ukrainian side, that at this very moment, more than 90% of the territory of Lugansk region is under the control of Russia, which potentially means that yes, in the nearest future Russia might announce some kind of victory. But just as a reminder, this goal is much smaller than the original goal, because in the beginning Russia wanted to liberate the south and east of Ukraine. Then they switched to liberating only Donbas region, which consists of Lugansk and Donetsk. And finally they decided to concentrate only on one of these regions, which is Lugansk. And in addition to liberating, whatever it means from Russian side, this region, earlier today Russia also announced that they were able to liberate Azovstal, which means that now they also have full control over the city of Mariupol. And I guess because Russia was able to achieve these two goals, we hopefully might be able to see the ceasefire in the nearest future. Today there has been a meeting between the ministers of foreign affairs of Lugansk, Donetsk and North Korea. And yes, North Korea has Ministry of Foreign Affairs. One of the main topics for their discussion was how to prevent the spread of fake news. And since North Korea is undoubtedly one of the biggest experts in this field, most likely their response would be no internet, no problem. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine confirms that the new goal of Ukrainian forces will be to push away all the Russian forces away from the territory of Ukraine. In addition to that, Ukraine will be fighting all the way until they'll be able to return all its lost territories, which includes the Donbas and Crimea. And the way they'll be able to achieve these objectives is by using Western offensive weapons, which at this very moment Ukraine is in the stage of accumulating. And if you've been watching my videos for the last couple of weeks, you already know that the advisor to the president of Ukraine, Alexei Arestovich, basically mentions the same. He said that at this very moment Ukraine is getting as many offensive weapons as it can get, and then approximately in June or July of this year, Ukraine will start launching counteroffensive. And he also hopes that the war can be over before the end of this year. Less than 2 weeks ago, the USA adopted the lend-lease support program for Ukraine, which basically means that sending weapons to Ukraine will be much faster and cheaper. And today, only 11 days later, USA already sent its first batch of howitzers to Ukraine. In addition to that, any day now, Joe Biden will sign another $40 billion support package to Ukraine, which will consist of military, humanitarian and financial support. This is a significant assistance from the US to Ukraine, and this brings the victory of Ukraine much closer. And I guess at this point everyone understands this, except the head of Russian NASA or Roscosmos, Dmitry Rogozin. He is certain that this $40 billion will never reach Ukraine because they will be stolen along the way. And yes, this comes from the mouth of, let's call him, Russian government official who are extremely notorious to being extremely corrupt. Which potentially raises the question that the reason why he is so upset, it is because he will not get the slice of this pie. In addition to $40 billion support package from the US, the G7 countries are also trying to mobilize $19.8 billion to Ukraine. Yesterday, the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, signed a bill under which planning a terroristic activity will be punishable by death. And I was also talking about that in the past there were several bloggers from Belarus who were charged with terroristic activities. And I mean, the only thing they were doing is that they were expressing their dissatisfaction and disagreement with the current political order. And so yes, just one day after signing this new bill, Belarus already accused another bloggers of these terroristic activities. And to be honest, the timing between signing this bill and accusing someone is very suspicious. Lukashenko also acknowledged that he knows that all these opposition people who have left Belarus, all they want to do right now is to be back in Belarus for some reason. And I think this is the way he imagines these opposition people. Oh, did you know that if we are back in Belarus, we can be accused of being a terrorist and we can get a death sentence? I think it's the perfect time to be back. Today, the Defense Intelligence of the United Kingdom reported that the advancement of the Russian army became so much more complicated, and in addition to that, there are many decisions that are being made that are completely thoughtless. What it basically means is that first of all, the advancement became so much slower. And because Russia is suffering so many losses on the battlefields at this very moment, Putin is obviously very unhappy. Because of this, the generals and officers are trying to do their best to present some kind of victory to Putin. And sometimes these people take decisions without thinking too much. And for example, some of these decisions include sending as many people as possible with no regards as how many will die. Because the main objective remains the same, which is basically to announce some kind of victory. A couple of days ago I mentioned if and when Russia liberates the Donbas region, it will be the Russian regular people who will be paying for restoration of these regions. And today it has already been reported that the government is already estimating estimating which regions of Russia will be helping which regions in Donbass. And yes, my assumption was basically correct, is that the regular people of Russia will pay for the post-war reconstruction of these regions because taxes will be increased. Because yes, I couldn't have imagined that if Russia destroyed these regions, it will be Russian oligarchs or the Russian government who will pay for the restorations. As always, Russian government is doing something, and the one who is paying for this is the regular Russian people. Today, a bill has been introduced into the Russian parliament which removes the maximum age requirements for those people who want to be mobilized, which in my personal opinion gives us an idea about two potential things. The first thing is that there is an incredibly short supply of Russian soldiers at this moment. That is why Russia will be mobilizing whoever they can. And the second potential meaning for this is that in the future Russia will be doing this hidden mobilization, which basically means that it will never be announced officially, but anyways, in many regions of Russia people will be drafted into the army. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, mentioned that Ukraine might get accepted into the European Union as soon as the war is over. And even though Ukraine is doing everything possible to join the alliance as soon as possible, it does not mean that the European Union is shutting down its doors on Ukraine. It looks like that they just want to do it during more peaceful times. There have been even several reports that NATO is considering to reopen Ukrainian application to join the alliance. Most likely it is just because they now see that all this stress that Russia was making against NATO in the beginning were just a bluff. And yes, in case this happens, Ukraine might join NATO only after the war. And speaking about NATO, there are several reports that the president of Turkey, Recep Erdogan, is now open for discussions with Finland. Previously, Turkey was the country that mentioned that they will not be able to say yes to Finland and Sweden joining the NATO. But now it looks like there is some kind of progress because the president is open for negotiations. Thank you so much for your attention, check the link in the description, stay safe, and see you on Monday with special episodes.